Hey everyone, and welcome to our explainer on some truly mind-bending biological research. Today, we're diving into an animal that is, honestly, so wildly misunderstood. When most of us think of parrots, right, we immediately picture these funny, super colorful pets. You know, the kind that sit on a pirate's shoulder and just repeat words back to us like little feathered voice recorders. We've all seen the online clips of them whistling pop songs or saying hello to the delivery guy, and we kind of just view them as simple entertainers. But today, we are going to peel back those brightly colored layers, because what scientists are finding is that we are actually looking at one of the most remarkable minds in the entire animal kingdom.
So, that brings us to the big question. Are parrots really just mimicking us? I mean, most people just assume they're imitating sounds without a single shred of actual understanding behind it. But when you look closely at the source material and the latest research, that whole preconceived notion completely falls apart. We're going to explore the hard science and honestly some astonishing real-world stories that prove these birds are doing so much more than just playing back audio.
Okay, get ready for this, because behind those colorful feathers lies a literal primate-level mind. I know that sounds like a massive, bold claim, but scientists now firmly believe that parrot problem-solving abilities are entirely comparable to great apes. Yes, we are talking about cognitive processing that rivals chimpanzees and gorillas. They aren't just bird-brained in the way we usually use that phrase, they are absolute powerhouses of intelligence.
To truly wrap our heads around this, we have to talk about Alex. Alex was an African gray parrot who completely shocked the global scientific community. You see, researchers didn't just teach Alex words, they put his actual comprehension to the test, and he passed with flying colors. He could identify shapes, materials, numbers, and colors. He even grasped highly abstract concepts, things like bigger versus smaller, or the difference between same and different. But the real breakthrough, the moment that changed everything, happened when researchers turned to Alex and asked him this exact unprecedented question: what color are you?
He looked right back at them and replied, gray. I mean, talk about a massive mic drop moment in the world of biology. By giving this single, completely astonishing answer, Alex proved that he actually understood his own attributes. He wasn't just reacting to a prompt with some trained trick response, he possessed self-awareness of his own physical state. That one single moment completely rewired how scientists viewed bird intelligence forever.
So you might be wondering, how on earth do they do this with such tiny brains? Well, it all comes down to neuron density. Scientists discovered that parrots pack an enormous, staggering number of neurons into their brains. It creates a density that, again, rivals those great apes we just talked about. Because their brains process information so incredibly efficiently, they can solve complex, multi-step puzzles, use tools effectively, understand cause and effect, and get this, even plan ahead for the future. There's actually a documented case of a cockatoo that figured out how to pick complex locks just by watching humans do it, and another one that figured out how to use sticks as tools to retrieve food hidden way behind barriers.
And here's where it gets even cooler. This intelligence doesn't just stay isolated to one genius bird. Because of these incredibly dense brains, when a single parrot learns something useful, like a new foraging technique or how to pop open a tricky container, it doesn't keep it a secret. It goes and teaches the entire flock. This creates actual socially transmitted behaviors across the whole population. They are literally passing down generational knowledge, which is the exact definition of bird culture.
This deep intelligence also bleeds right into how they communicate. Think about this. When human babies are born, we receive names from our parents, right? Well, researchers discovered that in the wild, baby parrots are given unique sound signatures by their parents. It's almost exactly like a naming convention. I want you to picture a wild jungle filled with thousands of birds flying around, and each single one recognizes the others by personalized, individual audio identities. That is definitely not simple mimicry. That is a secret, highly complex language.
And because their social structures are so incredibly complex, we see fascinating things happen, like peer pressure. Seriously, this is unbelievable, but wild parrots from different regions actually develop regional accents, just like we do. When a bird moves into a completely new flock, it will actively adapt and slowly change its vocal patterns just to fit in socially with its new peers. And we even see this exact same thing in pet parrots. They'll change their accents depending on who they spend the most time with. They can adopt British accents, Spanish accents, or even a weird mix of both if they live in a multi-accent household. So imagine a parrot politely asking for a cracker with a perfect London accent. It actually happens.
So, what does all this brain power mean if you have one living in your house? Well, because their social intelligence is so extreme, owning a parrot is way closer to caring for a permanent toddler than a typical pet bird. People often buy them, expecting simple, low-maintenance entertainment, But the reality is that their massive brains and deep emotional needs require constant mental stimulation, emotional interaction, and intense social engagement. Honestly, the only major difference is that a permanent toddler can occasionally fly to the top of your fridge and scream at you.
But when they don't get that necessary engagement, the results can be genuinely devastating. A lot of wild species form extremely strong social bonds and will actually mate for life. That means captive isolation or separation can lead to severe, debilitating depression. There are well-documented cases of parrots completely refusing to eat after losing a mate or an owner. Without proper stimulation, they develop deep anxiety behaviors, like plucking out their own feathers, which experts directly compare to psychological stress disorders in human beings. They are just incredibly emotionally vulnerable creatures.
Now, keeping that intense emotional sensitivity in mind, I want to shift gears for a second to a darker, absolutely astonishing reality. Because parrots are so deeply embedded in human lives, they sometimes find themselves right in the middle of our darkest moments, which naturally raises a pretty wild question. What actually happens when a parrot witnesses a crime? Picture this. In several criminal investigations around the world, police have walked into active crime scenes and been completely startled by the family parrot. There are documented real-world cases where parrots have accidentally repeated highly dramatic arguments, specific names, and entire phrases connected directly to actual murder scenes. In one particularly chilling case, a parrot reportedly just kept repeating the phrase, "Don't shoot." Another one repeatedly shouted the specific name of a suspected killer. Now, while a bird obviously can't officially testify in a court of law, their presence has startled and genuinely aided investigators on multiple occasions.
And here is the science behind why that happens. Parrots don't just mimic the words you happen to say most frequently. They lock onto intensely emotional sounds. If you think about it, arguments, yelling, or traumatic events are loud, high energy, and super emotionally charged. The parrot's brain flags that intense acoustic energy and memorizes it. Meaning, your pet parrot doesn't just remember your favorite daily catchphrase, it remembers your most dramatic, intense moments. Forever.
Unfortunately, that exact incredible intelligence and beauty also makes them massive targets. We absolutely have to acknowledge the severe dangers facing wild parrots right now through the illegal parrot trade. They are among the most trafficked birds globally. Smugglers often hide babies in cramped, deadly containers, and tragically, many do not survive the transport. Combined with massive habitat destruction, this trade has pushed several rare species right to the brink. The Spix macaw, which a lot of you might actually recognize from the animated movie Rio, nearly disappeared from nature entirely. Conservationists are currently in a desperate uphill race to restore these populations. But if you are watching this and considering bringing one of these rescued birds into your own home, there is one staggering number you need to know right up front: 90. That is the maximum lifespan, in years, of some large macaws and cockatoos. Caring for them is literally a lifetime commitment spanning generations. Think about it. A parrot bought by a young adult could very well outlive that owner, remaining alive and completely active when that person becomes elderly. Because of this reality, rescue centers globally are frequently taking in orphan parrots whose owners have passed away, leaving absolutely nobody prepared to care for this highly intelligent, emotionally complex permanent toddler. So, we've talked about their amazing minds, their deep emotions, and their massive lifespans. But I want to peel back one final layer to look at the actual biological mechanics of their mimicry. Like, how do they physically sound so much like us? The secret is something called the syrinx. This is the vocal organ of birds, sitting right at the base of their trachea. It allows parrots to control airflow with astonishing pinpoint precision, to the point where some can actually produce multiple different sounds almost simultaneously. To put that into perspective, think about how we produce sound. We humans use vocal cords, which are just folds of tissue in our larynx. Parrots, on the other hand, don't have vocal cords at all. They use this syrinx. It is incredibly bizarre and scientifically remarkable that by using a completely different piece of biological hardware, they can perfectly mimic the digital ring of a smartphone, a blaring fire alarm, or the exact pitch and tone of a human voice. The sheer eerie realism they achieve with the syrinx is completely unmatched in the animal kingdom.
And all of this brings us to the ultimate lingering scientific mystery, the one that researchers are still passionately debating to this day. Do parrots truly understand language? Or are they just creating associations that are so complex they're currently beyond our comprehension? I mean, we know from Alex the Gray that there is undeniable conceptual understanding happening in there. But where exactly is the line between an incredibly advanced associative memory and true conversational language? It's genuinely awe-inspiring that every single year, new studies come out, and every single year, parrots managed to surprise science all over again.
Parrots are so much more than just a colorful pet doing a cute party trick. They are deeply emotional, incredibly intelligent, socially complex beings capable of memory and learning on a scale we are only just beginning to map out. So the very next time you hear a parrot speak, remember what we've explored in this explainer today. You aren't just hearing a simple imitation. You are hearing a vast, intricate intelligence. Which leaves us with one final, haunting thought to chew on. Are we teaching parrots to speak our language, or are they just patiently waiting for us to finally understand theirs? Thanks so much for exploring this with me. Keep asking questions, and I'll see you next time.